Hey guys, welcome back to Vinceville Custom. So today I'm sharing you a Tigra Custom Statue made from the XM Studios Cheeta statue. Now, this was a fun project and I really do like the statue a lot. I think this face sculpt is absolutely amazing. I think XM did a really great job. Because you know what it is it feels like a comic book head sculpt, but it's still got some really nice detail to it. I like what a lot of these companies are doing now, where you see these head sculpts. They're like, they have a little bit more personality to them instead of just like very plain. But sometimes I think they go too close to an actress or an actor, and I'm like, you know, because I personally I don't like having like an actress or actor on my shelf. I want a comic book character, so I kind of like it where you get to the point where it makes it look like the character, but it's not like, oh, a famous person, you know. So I think there's like a fine line where sometimes it's a little too much, but sometimes it's not enough. So, but this one I think worked out pretty good, and I really like this head sculpt. The statue itself is great, and I really like how he did, like, you know, an old school look to her, you know, from back in the day in the comic books and stuff. That's what I like. I like when you look at a character and you're like, that's the character from back in the day, or that's what she looks like in the comic books or whatever. I'm not really a fan too much of the crazy, you know, stuff these days where they do a little bit of their own take on it and they make the outfits and they make all the stylized stuff. I think if you just kind of like pull the character out of the comic book and you put it on your shelf, that's what people are looking for. Even though they're bigger, adding a little bit more detail and fun with the item, it looks good. But when you get crazy with the outfits and you add lines and textures, things get overboard. But this one just worked out great. It was a little tricky here and there. We'll kind of go over that. But it was a fun item. I really had a lot of fun with this. It was pretty cool. Now, one thing you guys can explain to me, if you guys are any XM collectors out there, when I was chopping this up, it smelled and chopped like regular polystone. And I could tell it was just regular polystone. But I thought XM was based on cold cast porcelain, because I remember back in the day when they came out with their first batch, which was like Captain America and Iron Man, you could tell it was porcelain. Did XM change that over? Are they now on polystone now? I don't know, you guys. Like I said, I don't do a lot of. I think this is my first full blown XM custom. I've done some small repairs in the past. I never really posted much about them. But all in all, this one I could tell was definitely a polystone. So, I don't know, maybe they changed their formula or stuff over the time, but I definitely know it's not a porcelain, because it just chopped and smelled exactly like a regular polystone from Sideshow or whatever. But doesn't really matter though, because it still worked out pretty good and it came out really good. I'm really happy with this one. I don't know much about her. I do know that she, from what the client told me, is that she is a supermodel. And I guess she turned into this. Other than that, I really don't know. I should go back and read up on her. But growing up reading comic books, I do know I've seen her in like some, maybe West Coast Avenger books or some Avenger books here and there. But I really don't know much about her, because I was more into like the X-Men stuff and everything like that. But this statue that XM did is really great job. The face sculpt is amazing. The pose is great. The anatomy is great. It really is a great statue, and I like it a lot, and it came out good. It's just that I had to go a little bit and take it to a different level to make it work for this character, and we'll kind of go over that now. So we'll kind of go like talk about the legs and the arms. So if you look at the original statue, she had arm wraps here, and then she had leg wraps here. So we wanted to take those off the item because Tigra doesn't really have that stuff. So what I did is I chopped down the leg stuff here, and I kind of sculpted like furry type stuff to match the legs and the texture that's all over the body the best I could. I never was going to get it exactly like it, so I kind of just came as close as possible. Same thing with the arm here and the leg over here. But once I pretty much got that stuff done, it worked out pretty good. Now, the one thing about her arms was we were talking, and her arm actually like disconnected from here, where the top of the wraps were. And the client said, why don't we put like gold bracelets up here? But I'm like, well, you know, if we put gold bracelets up there, it might look weird, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know, why don't we just take it a step further? Why don't we attach the arm so I could blend all this in, and I'll cut it off here and we make it removable. So it is removable from here, as you can see, with a nice rod and a magnet. The reason why I was able to do it here is because this wrist area and these hands are a little bit thicker and bigger. So I was able to add a rod there. Sometimes when you get something really too small, you can't do that. but with this one we could. So I just kind of rebuilt the wrist and everything. We kind of worked that from there. Now, as far as her bathing suit or bikini, I guess you can call it, what we had to do is she had these like what was it, like a little like torn bikini type stuff that came over Cheetah around there and also around her booty. We'll kind of take off the piece here so we can get a booty shot for you. So what I had to do was I took that down, I popped that out, and then what it was is this tail was actually attached to the piece that was glued into here that went around for like that torn sash. So what I did is I chopped all that off and I rebuilt her booty and stuff. I kind of had to rebuild some fur. But what I did is I wanted to make the bikini sort of like tight on her. So the fur kind of like comes out a little bit around the booty and then also sort of around the crotch area and the stomach. It's kind of hard to see in there. And then I also did it around her chest too, because I told the client, I said, well, instead of, he didn't want me to like make, you know, sculpt really big breasts on her, but the way Cheetah was, it was kind of like flat. There was really no cleavage, and they did that because of the fur and everything, because she doesn't wear like an outfit up top. So what I did is I sort of chopped up around there, and I sort of kind of rebuilt the fur, but I kind of rebuilt this where the bikini is sort of pushing on her chest with the fur and everything. So this way it kind of makes it look a little bit more realistic and smoother. Sculpted a little bit of this, I guess it's the Tigra emblem. It's kind of like a bone thing that was there, so we kind of sculpted that. Now, the only problem with this is she really doesn't wear these like necklaces. You know, I guess she doesn't really have this stuff on her. So we decided to leave these on her because the head is removable. So this head is removable, and it has this piece here. So if I took all this out and we left it on, the problem would be you would see that seam going there. So we decided to leave that there because it was kind of like, okay, let's just leave it there and we'll kind of like utilize it for her. That was the only problem with that and stuff. So that worked out pretty well. Real quick, I guess I forgot about the bracelets. Because she is like a supermodel, I guess, or a model for whatever, we left gold bracelets on her just to kind of make her look a little bit more glammed up, I guess. And that's what we did with her, like fingernails and toenails. We painted those like, you know, like a red, little bit of a pearl in there, just to make her look a little bit glammed up and stuff. So as far as the paint goes, we'll kind of go over all the paint. It was a little tricky. We had to kind of find an orange for her that worked. We didn't want a bright orange out of the bottle, but we didn't want a really like muted yellowish orange on her. We wanted to find that middle ground, that old school orange. So it took me a while to kind of get that orange that we were trying to do. So I mixed up a lot of like orange and reds and yellows. I put some raw sienna in there, or raw sienna in there. I even mix flesh tone, like flesh tone paint, to kind of get this down to a muted orange. Once I got this down to an orange he liked, I did some washes in some dark areas in here. But then what I did is I went back with a dry brush of the original orange, and then I did another dry brush of like a yellowish orange, just to make the fur pop a little bit, to give it some life, because there was those texture all over her, and I really wanted to break that up and sort of make it a little bit more than just slapping an orange on it and being done. So in the beginning it was a little bit too much, and I had to kind of dry brush it down and everything. And then for her face and her hands, what I did is that yellowish sort of orangey that I made, I used that to kind of work in the face a little bit. So what I did is I made her face a little bit more brighter, and then the palms of her hands the same color, and that's what I changed that up. Now, I had a thought for some odd reason, until I saw the artwork, I thought the front of her chest and the inside of her legs would have been a brighter yellow and stuff, but it turns out that her old school drawings and the way she was drawn, she didn't have that. I guess I was thinking more of Cheetah from DC and stuff, that she had like the lighter stuff in the inside. With her, it's more just all orange. Now, as far as her stripes go, he wanted to base it off a specific artwork where it's kind of like striations, you know, kind of just like, worked out the stripes. and he wanted it on the back of her because he didn't, you know, if you actually look at a lot of tigers, they don't have the stripes really underneath of them. It's usually on their back and it comes around. So that's kind of what we did here. So we just kind of did, it was a little bit tricky because there's texture here, and trying to do those striations with a brush and on the texture is hard. But he wanted to follow like a specific comic book look, which is what we did. So that's how we had to do that. And then after all that was done too, as far as her tail goes, I had to rebuild this area with her booty and the tail. So the way XM did it is they had a metal rod, just like a little, they didn't have a magnet, they had like a little bit of a sticking rod in here. And what I had to do is I added a magnet in here, and I kind of re-pushed this into her bikini when I made it. And I sort of sculpted in a way where it looks like it's kind of like little like pushing out around there, and it kind of had the bone. And that's what I did for that. So that's what that came up with. Let's see. And as far as her bikini too, what I wanted to do, I don't know if you guys can really see it in the camera. We'll kind of get a little bit closer. If you look at a lot of, you know, DeviantArt stuff, or you look on Instagram, or even if you look at like where people kind of draw like women or, you know, anime girls in like bikini outfits, they always have these little texture pieces or a little bit like wrinkles over here. I don't know if you can see it over here as well. Hopefully we could kind of see. You can kind of see over here. And I wanted to create those wrinkles like it's really pulling around her chest, and you have those wrinkles. So I even did it right here underneath here with her bathing suit as well. So I really wanted to create all that stuff. Now the only thing is when I started to mask her up and paint her, I did mask off her teeth because the teeth were painted really good and they had a really nice wash in them. So there's no reason to mess with the teeth. And I masked off the eyeballs because there were little eyeballs that were really sculpted. I mean, they were put on pretty good. After I took all that off, what I did is I just colored those yellow into more of a green. And I just gave her a nice red lipstick on her, and I kind of did. He didn't want too much like crazy like eyeshadow and stuff, so I did really work it to the point where it's there, but it's not overboard. So that worked out pretty good. And I guess one of the last things, last two things, was her hair. She has like her old school hair is like really black hair with a little bit of like this dark, like reddish highlight. So he didn't really know how he wanted to paint it and stuff. I said, well, let me just take a crack at it and I'll come up with something that works. So what I did is I painted all the hair in a nice just jet black, and then I went in there with red highlights and I worked it all out. So there's a lot of black darkness in there, and then there is a lot of you know, red highlights. The lighting now might be grabbing it a lot, but I also added a little bit of pearls, and then I did some red wash, and I had some dark areas again. So I got this really like darkish red hair, and I think that works for her. And that's pretty much the figure, and that's pretty much how we came out with everything. So it came out really good. Now, the last thing is the base. I told him, I said, look, we really don't have to, you know, redo the whole base, but we can spruce it up a little bit more. I know a lot of people like the items and stuff, but in reality, all XM did, well, I'm not saying XM, but the factory for XM, this here was like a, basically a grayish paint rock, and then, or like a dark rock, and then it was a dry brushed on top. The wood was the same thing. It was just like a dark wood with a light, dry brushed lighter wood. But this wood here for the tree was the same wood colors as here, so this actually blended into it. And then the same thing with the grass. The grass was just like a dark green, and then a dry brush light green on top of it. And the skulls were just a white skull with a dry brushed, you know, or a wash of a, like black paint on it. So even though the factory blended it good, it still was only like two colors. It wasn't like, you know, there's a little bit of reddish in there, there's some browns, or there's some blues. There really wasn't much in there. So I told the client, that, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to do some washes and dry brushes, and we're going to make it pop a little bit more than what's there. So if you looked in the video, I did the before and after. All I really did is I went in there and I added like brown washes. I used the airbrush. I did some extra dry brushing. I added a little bit more of a yellowish stuff on the trees. I added a little bit more greens and stuff in there, and I added like green washes around the edges, and I just made it pop more, and she pops off the base more than what she was before. So like even here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but this color of the tree is a different color now from these pieces here, because I did a different color dry brushing on these, I guess, tiki symbol things. And the skulls too, got like a lot of different colors in the skulls. I did some dry brushing and some washes in there, and I wiped it off because the factory. I have this thing where XM statues, a lot of people are like, oh, they're always better than sideshows, blah blah blah. In reality, there are only 2 colors on the bases, at least the bases, but they blend it better to make it look good that it's more colors. But in reality, it was only just 2 colors. And I'm like, sideshow does the same thing, and other companies do the same stuff too as well. But we just wanted to take this to a different level and make it pop more. So it was kind of funny. I started working on the base the other day, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh crap, I forgot about this extra piece too. So I had to go back in a box and pop this out. So I made sure I did all the same colors and stuff. But I just went around here and just kind of did washes, dry brushes, and just make it pop a little bit more. So with adding a lot more darker colors into a lot of the crevices, it makes everything pop a little bit more than just like a flat 2-color process. But yeah, that is Tigra. So it was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. I think it worked out pretty well. Like I said, I like doing some of these older school characters straight out of the comic book, and it worked out pretty well. So let me know what you guys think. And like I said, if you guys have any feedback or information, if XM changed over to Polystone, let me know. I'm pretty curious about that, because if their items are more Polystone now, I can suggest people that we can actually start doing customizing of these XM stuff. Because like I said, the earlier stuff was, you know, the porcelain. And from what I understand, and when I did a repair on the earlier stuff, whenever I dremelled into it, it started to like sort of spider crack and break off more than Polystone does. So if they're all Polystone now, maybe that opens up more options for customs. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like this? Do you know about Tigra? Leave some feedback if you got any history on her. Maybe if I get a chance, I'll do some reading on her when I just to kind of just know about the character a little bit more. But really cool item, and I think this is going to be really great in this collection with a lot of his other stuff he has done. And that's pretty much it. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.